He didn't sit down to craft comforting reassurances or gentle nudges toward positivity. He studied history's most dangerous minds, the manipulators, the power brokers, the kings and generals who rose and fell. And he extracted something cold from all of it, something most people aren't ready to hear. And here's the warning he keeps returning to, in every book, in every interview, buried just beneath the surface of everything he's ever written. You are not who you think you are. Not even close. Most people spend their entire lives operating from a version of themselves they constructed in childhood. A version built to survive a specific environment, to earn love from specific people, to avoid specific kinds of pain. And at some point, that version hardened. It became your identity, your personality, the story you tell about who you are and why you do what you do. But Greene would look at that story and say, it's a mask, a functional mask, maybe, but a mask. And the tragedy isn't that you wear it. The tragedy is that you've forgotten you're wearing it at all. Here's what most people get wrong about self-knowledge. They assume they already have it. Ask anyone on the street if they understand themselves, and most will say yes. Ask them why they keep choosing the same type of partner who disappoints them. Ask them why they always self-sabotage right before a breakthrough. Ask them why they feel a strange satisfaction when someone they envy fails. Ask them why they talk themselves out of the very things they claim they want. Silence. Because self-knowledge isn't the same as self-awareness. Self-awareness is just noticing your feelings. Self-knowledge is understanding the machinery that produces them. The desires you've denied, the fears you've disguised as preferences, the wounds you've repackaged as virtues. And here's where Greene's warning starts to cut. He understands to something that most motivational content deliberately avoids. Your unconscious drives are not random. They are ruthlessly logical. They serve specific purposes, and until you identify those purposes, you will keep serving them, thinking all the while that you're the one in charge. Greene spent decades studying human nature, and what he found wasn't flattering. He found that humans are rationalizing creatures, not rational ones. We don't decide what we want, and then figure out how to get it. We feel what we want, driven by ancient emotional systems, by childhood imprinting, by status anxiety and tribal fear, and then we construct a perfectly reasonable-sounding explanation afterward. We don't reason our way to conclusions. We reason our way to justifications. Think about the last time you made a decision you later regretted. Did it feel like a mistake at the time? Probably not. It felt logical. It felt right. Your mind had already assembled a flawless case for why this was the smart move, the mature move, the brave move. That's the machinery at work. Greene calls this the shadow, borrowing from Jung, but sharpening it into something more forensic. The shadow isn't just the dark side of your personality. It's everything you've pushed below the surface. The ambitions you're ashamed of, the envies you pretend you don't feel, the hunger for recognition you've dressed up as humble service, the resentments you've justified as righteous boundaries. And here's the critical part. Your shadow doesn't disappear because you deny it. It doesn't quietly accept its exile. It finds other exits. It leaks out in your decisions, in your relationships, in the way you respond when someone challenges you, or when someone succeeds in a way you wanted to succeed. You see, most people are not aware of how much of their behavior is authored by the parts of themselves they refuse to examine. And so they go through life mystified, wondering why the same problems keep reappearing, wondering why effort doesn't seem to translate into results, wondering why the life they're building somehow never quite fits. The answer, Greene would say, is uncomfortable but simple. You're not steering the ship. Not really, not yet. Look at your last 3 years. Not the story you tell about them, the actual data, the patterns in your choices, the recurring themes in your struggles. the specific ways your plans tend to unravel, the particular types of people who keep showing up in your life, to disappoint you, to challenge you, to mirror something back at you that you'd rather not see. Because here's what most people miss. Your life is not random. It is extraordinarily consistent. And that consistency is a map, a detailed, precise map of your unconscious operating system. Greene would point to the person who keeps attracting unavailable partners and say, what is this person actually selecting for? Not consciously. Consciously, they want intimacy. But unconsciously, maybe unavailability feels familiar. Maybe full intimacy feels dangerous. Maybe the longing and the disappointment, as painful as they are actual ally more comfortable than being truly known. Or the entrepreneur who builds something successful, then quietly burns it down just before it reaches the next level. Again and again. Greene would ask, what does staying small protect you from? Because it is protecting you from something. The answer is always there. It's just not comfortable to look at directly. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. The person most responsible for where you are right now is you. Not your circumstances, not the people who hurt you, not the timing or the market or the opportunities that never came. Those things are real. Greene never dismisses them, but they do not explain the pattern. Only you can explain the pattern. This is the hardest truth, not because it assigns blame, but because it means the thing you've been looking for out there, the break, the person, the moment of arrival, is not actually what you need. What you need is the honesty to examine what's happening in here. And here's the thing. This isn't a reason to despair. It's the exact opposite. Because if your patterns are authored by you, even the unconscious, unexamined parts of you, that means they can be re-authored. The machinery that has been running your life can be understood, and once understood, it can be interrupted. Greene doesn't believe in fate. He believes in self-mastery, but he is absolutely ruthless about what self-mastery requires. It doesn't begin with ambition or discipline or grinding harder. It begins with observation, with the willingness to look at yourself the way a scientist looks at a subject, without flinching, without defending, without immediately reaching for a flattering interpretation. It means sitting with the question, what do I actually want, beneath the version of myself I perform for others? It means asking, what am I really afraid of, beneath the reasons I've given myself? It means noticing the gap between what you say you value and how you actually spend your time, your energy, your attention, because that gap doesn't lie. That gap is the shadow, showing itself in broad daylight. So what does Greene actually prescribe? First, he prescribes the study of your own history, not to wallow in it, not to assign blame, but to identify the emotional signature of your recurring patterns. When does your motivation suddenly collapse? What types of situations reliably make you irrational? When do you feel the most defensive, the most envious, the most inexplicably certain you're right? Those moments are the threads. Pull them, and you find the structure. Second, he prescribes radical patience with this process. Most people want the insight without the time it takes to earn it. They read a book, recognize themselves in a paragraph, feel a momentary jolt of clarity, and then return to their patterns by Tuesday. Real self-knowledge isn't a revelation. It's an accumulation. It's the slow, unglamorous work of watching yourself repeatedly across many situations until the truth becomes undeniable. Third, and this is the part that separates Greene from almost every other voice in this space, he prescribes the acceptance of your own darkness. Not the performance of self-improvement, not the aggressive suppression of your less admirable impulses, but the integration of them. Because the ambition you're ashamed of is also fuel. The envy you deny is also information about what you actually desire. The anger you've politely buried is also energy. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to become whole, And you cannot become whole by cutting off half of what you are. The warning Robert Greene issues isn't a punishment. It isn't a verdict on your character or a statement about your worth. It is an invitation, the most serious one you'll ever receive. The invitation to stop sleepwalking, to stop outsourcing your life to the unconscious patterns that have been steering it in your absence. He watched history's greatest figures fail, not from lack of intelligence or lack of ambition, but from lack of self-knowledge. From the blind spots they refused to examine, from the shadows they never turned around to face. And he watched others rise, not because they were exceptional from the start, but because they were honest, because they did the uncomfortable work of seeing themselves clearly, because they looked at the machinery and said, "I understand this now, and I choose to run it differently." You have that same choice. Not tomorrow, not once things settle down. Now. The hardest truth is also the most freeing one. You are not a victim of your life. You are the author of it, and the pen has been in your hand the whole time. All you have to do is pick it up.